This is A Story of Sorts, the podcast mostly about bookish stuff, and I am your host, Karina Pereira. Hello everyone! On this episode I chat with Diana Pinguicha about her sapphic novel A Curse of Roses, about Portuguese legends and mythology, and about the Portuguese reading market. Have a listen. Welcome.
Hi.
We were just talking in Portuguese and now we're going to switch to English, so I hope it's not too weird.
Watch us forget how basic English works.
Yes. I'm always switching between languages, and sometimes, unfortunately, I do forget some things in Portuguese and in English, and sometimes I can't know the word in any language anymore.
Then it's the thing that does the thing that you take to that specific thing.
Yes, like when people ask me, when I say, oh, I can't remember it in English. Oh, just say it in Portuguese. Maybe it will be close enough that we will understand. Yeah, I can't remember in English anymore or Portuguese anymore. So never mind that.
Google has helped where you now, when you don't know, you just go on Google and it's like this word.
I looked for this. I know you already, but I would like you to introduce yourself to us. Who is Diana? Oh, I called you Diana, and now you're English as well. Diana.
That happens to me. I say my name is Diana, but when I'm talking in English, like, oh yeah, I'm Diana.
Yeah, so see, you gotta
it's
switch
just
everything.
Your brain switches. Same when you're reading foreign names and your brain reads it in Portuguese, and then it's not the same.
Yeah, and then you hear the name and it's like, oh, I thought it was pronounced a different way.
Yep. Maisie was a name I was pronouncing wrong for a long time.
How were you pronouncing it?
Maisie,
yeah.
In Portuguese, because the A is A.
Yeah, makes sense.
Maisie. Anyway, hi. I'm Diana/Diana, however you want to call me. And I am a graduate in computer engineering who turned to writing and is now writing full-time, mostly. And I write mostly young adult fantasy and science fiction, but I dabble in all other things. And I also paint on the side sometimes. I live with my 2 cats and my bearded dragon, who, as it is winter, is currently like giving up on life and brumating. Like, that's the way. I'm quitting life to become a bearded dragon who just sleeps through the winter.
But yeah, especially with this weather. Although, to be honest, I do prefer this weather. I kind of die during the summer because it's so hot. So I would be like the opposite, I think.
I prefer summer because then I get to wear all the dresses.
Oh, okay.
And it's not as comfortable as winter. I haven't quite found tights that will keep me warm.
No, yeah, that's true. Because you always need the tights in the winter.
I change my wardrobe. Like I develop a pants allergy. So
I'm
just like skirts all the time.
I get it. I get that. Because it's also so difficult to find comfortable pants.
When they fit your hips, they don't fit the rest.
No, exactly. It's just so complicated to be a woman.
I have a friend who's really tall and her problem is the opposite. She can't find pants that are long enough because people think women cannot be over like 5'6". And so she's 5'10".
She's got to buy them from here.
It's been a nightmare in Portugal. She's from the US. It's been a nightmare in Portugal.
Yeah. How did you? Now I want to know how did you go from becoming a writer when your degree is so different?
Engineering.
Yeah.
So I went to computer engineering because I wanted to work in video games, which I did until Brexit screwed us, because our company was based in the UK and we were doing community projects funded by the European community.
Mm-hmm.
And then Brexit happened, so there goes your funding. But that was I really enjoyed that job. We did a couple of games that won awards for. It was educational games. It wasn't a commercial game.
You can say the names if it's a.
They were like, one was like the child witness interview for the police. That's like their names. You can't download them because they're specifically for training.
Yeah. Okay.
We were hired by the police in the UK to make a game that would help their policemen have the very basics when it comes to interviewing a child witness.
Okay.
Witness the crime. And that was really interesting to work in. But alas, Brexit screwed me. But I went to computer engineering because I wanted to work in video games, namely in writing. video games. And I
Yeah.
thought the easiest way was going through the engineering route, which of course we're not going to talk about the state of video games, especially if you're a woman. So, but I love my job, but I spent most of my college years like in lectures, not paying attention, and instead I was just writing.
Yeah. The
Because it turns
stories
out
were.
it's what I like to do to amuse myself sometimes, just write. And on a whim, it was for a portfolio subject in college because we did that. And I did proficiency in English, which my parents were like, yeah, sure, do it. Don't you dare finish it with a bad grade because we know your English is good. So I did. And when I was doing that, my teacher there was an Irish guy named Harry, read some of my short stories for class. And he was like, well, you should just write books. I'm like, write books? No, I'm not going to do that. But then as I was sitting in class doing nano that year, I was like, yeah, no, maybe he is right. So ever since then, I was like 22, 21. Ever since then, I've been writing books, both as a therapy and as, a job.
And your first published novel is A Curse of Roses. What is it about? I want you to tell us what it's about.
So A Curse of Roses is a sapphic retelling of the Miracle of Roses legend, the Portuguese variant, because there are several, as I've come to find out.
Oh, really?
There's the Hungarian one, which I mentioned briefly in the book, by Elizabeth of Hungary. That's the anglicized version?
Anglicized, I think.
Anglicized, okay. So that's the anglicized version. But yeah, she was Isabel of Aragon's great aunt. So I thought, oh, that's just, it runs in the family.
Okay, I see.
And then there's the Spanish one, and I know there are some in South America.
With pretty much the same legend.
Pretty much all of them are named Isabel.
But do they also have
It's all about a legend about flowers and bread.
Okay, wow.
There are a lot of them.
See, I thought we were original. We were not.
We were not. We stole it from Hungary first, and then everyone else stole it.
I remember talking about your book with someone at work. I forget now who it was, and I was telling about the legend, and then the person thought that actually it might have been with my boyfriend. Now that I think about it, and then the person he thought. Those were actually real people, because he thought the whole legend, including the people in the legend, were made up, but the people were actually real.
Yep, we really like our saints with roses and bread.
Do you want to tell the legend, for people who haven't read the book and don't know the legend?
Okay, so according as the legend goes, we had Queen Isabel of Aragon, who married King Dinis, or in the old spelling, King Dinis, like as in Dennis, yeah. That's Dinis of Portugal. And he was a bit of a miser who thought charity was not how you went about helping people who...
Sounds like a libertarian to me.
Kind of. He was very forward for the time, but he still had some backwards ideas still for the time. And Isabel was very charitable. She was also always raised in that whole Catholic, you need to help other people, it's your duty as princess, holy princess of the kingdom, etc. But Denise was against it. So what can a girl do but sneak outside in the morning or night and leave bread for the people because they were starving? And that if you're from Alentejo, you know that a loaf of bread can go a long way, namely with soups.
Yes,
we have a lot of soups involving bread and migas. And so there she was delivering bread to the needy when Dinesh finds her. And he asks her, what do you take? Because she brought the bread in her skirts. So what do you carry in your skirts? And she was like, well, I can't say bread because then he'll be mad. So roses, my lord. And he was like, roses? It's not rose weather, woman. Like, what are you saying? Show me. And she was like, oops, okay, well, God will help, please. I'm doing your work. And she dropped the skirts, and instead of bread, lo and behold, It is roses that fell to the ground. And Denise knew she was lying about it because he was no dummy.
Yeah, but I
and
mean,
so he looked at it and he was like, well, guess it must be a miracle then, and God must really want her to help people. So
or to lie to me.
guess that's fine now. I mean, God's obviously on your side, Isabel.
It's so
And that
curious.
was it.
Yeah, it's very curious when you, like I said, I was reading the book and you grow up with this legend. I think everybody in Portugal knows it.
Yeah, I think everyone does.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like it's so nice to see it in the book. Where did the idea of rewriting a Portuguese legend came from? Did you always knew you wanted to write about it, or how did the idea start to take form in your head?
I had thought about it, like using Portuguese mythology in books, because we see so much of other mythologies, but never ours.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do, it's like this one book where it's terrible. And it's like an American doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't get certain things about being Portuguese and about our culture. I was between books at the time. My other book was still on submission, but it was just not selling. And so I needed to write another one. And I was looking at the market and what was coming out in the next couple of years, because that's how you should look at the market. It's not by what's coming out now, because publishing takes so long. You want to look at what's coming in the next 2 years, because that's going to be when if your book is published, it will be 2 years from now, maybe. Sometimes it's 3. It's a long timeline. And I was looking at it, it's like, well, retellings are
picking up
huge. Yeah, they're really huge. And I thought, well, I don't want to do a Cinderella. I don't want to do Beauty and the Beast, because that's what everyone else is doing. Then I thought about what can I do that's unique to me. And Estremoz, it's huge around the Rainha Santa Isabel. And I was like, well, I grew up with that legend. I'm sure I can adapt it. And that's how it started. I was like, I'm going to do a retelling of the Miracle of Roses. I'm sure I can find like a lot of stuff to do. So then I started research. And the more research I did, the more I just realized Isabel was not straight.
Oh, okay. Because I know nothing about that. I know absolutely. Like the only thing I know, I don't even know like the Queen and the King that well. The only thing I know is really, and I know them from the legend, because like we probably got taught in school about them, but just fleetingly. You don't go deep into their lives, and I haven't researched
anything. I knew more about
them
because Estremoz, I think Dinis, he didn't build a castle, but he restored it.
Yeah, so it was. They were very big there.
Yeah, that's also where Isabel died.
Okay,
and they spent a lot of time there. So it's huge in my hometown. There's statues of her. My school is named after her.
Oh, wow.
My high school was named after her. And you even have like restaurants called It's Roses.
Oh, wow. Okay.
São Rosas. Unfortunately, São Rosas has closed, which is a shame because the food was great. But the chef is now in another place making empadas, and they're very good.
Oh, wow.
I've gone to her restaurant, her new one, since. So I always knew that, but as I was doing more research, because I knew what we were taught in school, but it's very superficial.
Yeah.
And I come to realize that what you learn in school is a very not superficial, doctored version of how story went. It's to make us look good.
Actually, I was thinking about this the other day. Maybe you can tell me, because my memory from my childhood is very bad. But I do remember us learning about Sappho, right, in school. We actually get taught some poems. I do not remember being told, maybe I'm not sure, because like I said, my memory isn't that good, but I don't remember if we were told that she was a woman, but I know definitely we were not told that her poems were written to other women. Right?
So can you imagine the shock?
Exactly, but like when you like later in life, when you kind of realize why things are called sapphic, and then Sappho, but I learned about her. But wait a minute, I learned about it, but and then
no,
you realize,
they don't tell you.
No, there's like no, not even a small idea, a hint, or anything at all. And like I said, I'm not even sure I knew she was a woman. Or that I thought I was a woman.
Sappho, and you see Sappho, and if you're Portuguese, you go masculine because it ends with an O.
Yeah, exactly. So I was thinking, did I know it was a woman? I don't think I did. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, it's fine. Anyway, there I was researching Isabel, and I looked at her life, and she was always very devout. After Dinesh died, she just went to a convent, and we all know what was up in convents from the dawn of time, because that's where all the lesbians went to be left alone. That was true.
Clever.
And I also noticed that Isabel was very much okay with him sleeping around. She raised all his bastards, or the ones she knew about, as her own. Like she educated them and all of that. And she had exactly 2 children with him and stopped after the boy.
It's like, I've done, you know what? I've done my job.
I've done it. I've done my duty.
Don't bother me again. Go sleep with other women.
The Meninas de Odivelas, the song, is about him, about where she goes, just go see them. And it's an apocryphal story, but I 100% believe it. She was just like, no, I already had this. Go.
Yeah.
Stick that somewhere else.
Leave me alone.
I am here doing my running of the country and my lands. And he really liked her. He thought she would make a great king if she'd been born a man.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They were very good friends.
Well,
like, even through his poems, you can tell that.
I honestly really loved that twist. For me, was a twist because I obviously, like I said, I did not know a lot about them, but you are kind of used to have like that relationship, right? Like a couple relationship, man and woman. And I really, truly loved what you did with their relationship. I don't want to give any spoilers.
Yeah.
So I won't.
That was because during research, I was just like, they sound like they were more like really good friends who got married in the way people got married back then. If you were noble, it was arranged.
Yeah. But it's also in a sense like, let's just make this easier for both of us. We can work together and just without anyone getting hurt. And I really loved it.
And they worked well together because they were a really good ruling couple that we had. They did a lot for our local internal economy.
Yeah.
And she did build hospitals for sick prostitutes. That was a really cool thing. Like, she really did do that. And I do think she was just like, these women, they're just prostituting themselves because really, what choice do they have? Like, these times are hard. Times are hard. How can you blame them?
Yeah. So,
Let's just make sure they do it safely.
Yeah.
Or as safely as medieval medicine can let it be. Because it was, they really believed that to cure smallpox, which they called the Red Plague back then.
Oh, that's what I did not know.
Yeah,
that's why
it was smallpox.
I actually thought, did Diana just create a plague that does not exist? Because I never heard of the Red Plague.
It was what they called smallpox. Because it did make you red. And they did believe that you just hung red cloths by the windows and doors, and the red from the cloth would draw it out from your face and heal you.
Okay.
Medieval medicine.
That sounds like something that would be believable at the time.
They believed in a lot of weird stuff.
That's why you decided, because it is such a legend that it's, it's so known in Estremoz, and that's why you decided this one.
And I'm gonna make it lesbian because I know they would hate it.
Yes. Oh yeah.
They would hate it.
And then you picked up that legend and you made it sapphic. Did it worry you that people, especially in Portugal, because it's curious, because like I said, sometimes online you create a bubble, and this is not in the bubble that I feel that I am online, a sapphic retelling would not be anything extreme or even out. Actually, it's something that people would want. But did it worry you that maybe people in Portugal might not see a sapphic retelling, especially from a Portuguese legend and so well known with good eyes? Or do you think the reading market in Portugal is slightly changing?
I mean, it is changing. That it's definitely changing. There's more room for queer books now, and there are readers. There are definitely readers. There's no doubt about that. But it's about being afraid. My parents are still very uncomfortable about the book, and we don't talk about it.
Did they read it?
No, but they read the intro.
They know what it is about.
Because they don't read English that well. My mom doesn't, period. My dad can speak and write it, but not like
to read a book, of course. Yeah, it's a lot more work, obviously.
But it was just like it was my cousin who's just like, oh no, they are uncomfortable. They just won't tell you to your face.
So they've been talking.
Okay, so how many family members do I need to wait to die so I can come out to all of you?
It's just like just publishing like to be as extreme as possible. I wouldn't call it extreme because this is very common things in my point of view, but not to our family, right? So it's like just do the most outrageous thing that you might think.
But yeah, when I was conceptualizing the book, I did initially think about I could make it just a love story between Isabel and Dinesh. But the more I read about them, they were just like, they're not in love.
Yeah.
That was just not happening. And I really wanted Enchanted Mothers.
Yeah.
Because I think they are we don't talk about them enough.
Mm-hmm.
We do talk about them in Alentejo because we have a lot of them local legends, but not in the whole country.
Yeah, not
so I really wanted to make Enchanted Mothers. And also I wanted to rewrite the Enchanted Mothers stories because almost all of them fall in love with this dude. In fact, in Salukia/Fatian's case, it was not a Portuguese knight, but in others it is. And they all die of heartbreak when he gets found out and is killed. And I was just like, no, like, why?
Yeah, it's like a little bit like the death ballads in the American folk and stuff. Like women always die. Jesus, no.
It was the one in Sintra because I went to Sintra last weekend, and I was telling my friend Giallo about the Sintra one, which was like she took a thing of water. See, the thing you use, the thing made of clay you used to carry water.
I also don't know
I can't
the
remember
name.
right now.
I just know the name in Portuguese.
Uma ânfora.
Oh, I would say canteiro.
Canteiro. Sim, canteiro.
Right?
Well,
yeah, but I don't know in English.
Yeah, she was like gathering water and she found a dying Portuguese knight. And this Moorish princess nurses him back to health, except they're found out. Ooh. And then he's killed and she dies of heartbreak. And I was just like, why? Couldn't she just be helping the poor dude survive? Why does she have to fall in love?
It's also a curious thing because now it reminded me of something that I remember my father telling me many years ago. Like I was still living in Portugal, but there were a lot of stories of women who, like, for example, they had a fiance or something and they would die or they went like to war or whatever. And then they would just not marry or date ever again. And they would just be heartbroken. Some of them would die of the heartbreak. And I remember my father telling me, huh?
It's what? The saudade.
Yeah. And like, and the loneliness because you can only apparently love one person in your life forever, even when they very often are horrible to you, which they were. Like if you think men are bad nowadays, I mean, anyway. But I remember my father telling me, oh, nobody dies of heartbreak anymore these days. And I was like, and is that a bad thing? How is that a bad thing? And he meant in the sense of like, people don't commit the same way. That's a good thing. I mean,
it is a good thing.
Especially women. Women always.
My grandma, because my grandfather died when she was relatively still young.
Yeah. Oh, but it doesn't.
She was like, she was 50, but no, the rest until now, like 20 years later, she's still like in her black clothes.
Yes, exactly.
His wardrobe is still untouched. Their bedroom is untouched, and I'm just like, why?
But I also think that a lot of women who kind of like try to start a new life are not seen with good eyes very often. They're like, whoa.
No, then you're moving on too fast. Even though it's been 20 years, you're still moving on too fast. You need to honor.
Like I was talking to my mom on the phone and there was like this lady who went to one of those morning programs that we have in Portugal, which are terrible. And the lady was telling a story about her husband. And then now she had another boyfriend. And my mom said, I was feeling very sad for her. But then I found out that her husband died only 2 years ago. And she's already with another man. I was like, what do you want?
Why shouldn't she?
Why shouldn't she? You don't even know. I mean, it's just like, But that's the mentality. It's like,
No, it's the
she
whole
has to mourn them for like 10 years.
what's the word I wanted to get? It's not fetishizing, but we love the saudade.
Yeah,
and we think that
romanticizing
it's better to be sad.
Yeah.
And you need to greet sadness like an old friend.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
That's what makes you a certain type of person that is kind of looked upon. And it's the same way that sometimes society in general looks at mothers. Oh, she's a warrior. She gave up everything for her kids. Like, there is not as good as you think it sounds. Like, that's no,
no.
We shouldn't aim for that as a society. Nope. But yeah, it's just so yeah, I can imagine that the talking. Do people still, like, did your family ask you about the book and like when they knew that you had published?
They know about the book and they talk. Oh yeah, our daughter wrote a book. They just don't say about what.
Yeah. Okay. So they.
Oh yeah, it's a retelling of the Miracle of Roses, but because everyone they know will not read in English, they can just talk about it, and no one's going to read. So no one's going to find out that their daughter wrote a lesbian book.
Okay, very well.
I remember the first conversation I had with my mom about that, because she works at a hotel, and one of her coworkers is actually one of my former classmates / hockey teammates. Mm-hmm. And my hockey teammate did tell her, the book is lesbians. And then in another conversation, like, my mom, I was talking about your book, because Isabel Stillwell went to the hotel she was staying at. And I was like, did you tell her it was lesbians? And she was like, yes, I've been told it's lesbian.
And then there's the conversation is over.
It just ends. It just ends right there.
Speaking of which, why did you decide to write it in English?
Can you imagine seeing this book published in Portuguese?
I wish.
If I had written it in Portuguese, it would be in my drawer. I mean, it could be self-published.
Yes, of course. But I mean,
I find that I do not have the disposition or temperament to handle like self-publishing.
Yeah, it requires a lot of marketing.
It is a lot of work.
People, in a sense.
It is a lot of work. Like, it's not a nihilist thing. It's a lot of work. I would do it, but I know myself, and I know I would not do well with so much depending on me.
Yeah.
I need someone externally, like, telling me, you need to turn this in by this day, and we're going to do the cover and everything else. You just sit there and write.
Yeah.
Because but that's a personal thing.
If you don't have deadlines, maybe you don't.
It's terrible for me. Right? I actually do need deadlines to function, but that has to do with ADHD and, the brain. But I do need deadlines to function. So having my own deadlines is terrible.
Not a good way to do things.
I've been trying to write a short story, and I gave myself a 1-week deadline, and it's been a month.
Yeah, because
I keep rewriting it.
Since I don't have
I don't have a hard deadline to turn it in, I just keep reworking it.
Because nobody's waiting for you. It's just yourself, right?
Exactly. It's the worst. Like, no, it would really work better if I rewrote the beginning. Then I just...
Let's write again.
Doing that. I've always written in English since my fanfic years that started when I was 14. And I was terrible at it. But it just kept happening. And... most of my friends were actually English readers, so that's also how I got my feedback from beta readers. So writing in Portuguese would just be counterintuitive at that point. So you find it easier for you to write in English than to write in Portuguese in some way? I do. I have an odd relationship also with Portuguese, in that it sends me to a bad place because of all the bullying I had in high school. So I associate writing and speaking in Portuguese with being ridiculed. Okay. Whereas I never had that with English. It was always kind of a safe space for me. Yep. So I always express myself better in English too nowadays. Because Portuguese, it's a very it's very yours as well. Like, speaking in your native language feels so much more personal. And it's very not heavy. It's the sounds too. It's very closed, kind of. Yeah. And but I do think I don't know if it happens with most people who speak English rather than their native language, but I do find it's easier for me to
express myself in English. In Portuguese, I get more embarrassed by my own language.
I think it's because it's just how Portuguese is. It makes everything sound so much more serious and
so ridiculous. It's so easy to be ridiculous. If you look at the songs, for example, like even Brazilian Portuguese can make a song that the lyrics are kind of like ridiculous, fun. In Portuguese, it doesn't work.
I think it's the phonetics.
Poetry, either you know the poetry of Brazilian, the language.
Yeah, I will get my European Portuguese card revoked, but I really admit that I think that phonetically, Brazilian Portuguese sounds much better than ours.
It sounds nicer to the
and it's much less depressing.
Yes.
Like, even when they swear in Brazilian Portuguese, like even the most depressing song still has a little bit of a lift to it.
Yeah.
Whereas in Portuguese from Portugal, it's just fado and it's depressing.
Yeah, but that it is. It's very curious. I don't know why exactly, but I do remember like translating, I think it was some Shakira songs from Spanish to Portuguese at some point, and thinking like this would not work at all in Portuguese. This would sound ridiculous.
It's phonetics.
Yeah.
I think it's phonetics.
Yeah.
But also, have you ever tried reading an erotica book in Portuguese?
Actually, no.
It's so cringe. Jacqueline Carey. I love Cushiel's Dart. It's one of my favorite books. I tried to read some of it in Portuguese at the bookstore.
Is there a translation?
The translation. It was terrible. It made Jacqueline Carey writing, which is wonderfully complex, and it's not purple prose in English.
Yeah.
It is purple prose in Portuguese.
It's just, I don't know.
It's
I think
so strange. And
but I do think that like texts and, like I said, in poetry and music in Portuguese, to be good, they really have to, like the words have to be very carefully chosen.
Like, I love Fernando Pessoa exactly because of that. He's one of the few people that makes European Portuguese poetry sound really good.
Like, I like a lot of Portuguese writers, but it's very easy in Portuguese to just do a terrible job with writing.
Yeah, it is.
You know, like, I don't know.
I think Afonso Cruz is a great writer.
I've never read him, actually.
Contemporary Portuguese writer. He's really good. Carlos M. Soares, I think, is also really good.
Mm-hmm. But because
we do have them, but it's harder.
No, and it's something that I wanted to talk also. But first I want to ask you, like, how was the publishing process? Before I go into it, has to do with publishing, but it's
a mess.
Oh,
it was a very unusual process because I had an agent. And she told me, like, do a Curse of Roses because it's really unique. So yeah, I'm gonna do this, even though after, like, when I got halfway, I got the 40K curse. When you get to 40,000 words, you hate the book and you want to do something else. But she convinced me to stay on A Curse of Roses. And I was almost to the end, but I just couldn't get it finished. So I applied for workshops where you needed the full manuscript.
Okay.
And I got into highlights. And I was mentored by Laura Ruby. And she was also, well, I'm going to need your book finished by this date. Guess what happened? Now I really need to finish the book. Now I have an actual deadline. Yeah. So I did, and I did the workshop, and it was great. I highly recommend highlights, especially because they gave me a scholarship that let me go for free, basically.
Wow, that's nice.
So I went there, and I came back, revised my book. My previous agent went, well, I think this is adult fantasy, which I no longer represent. And because it was slightly different from the version that ended up being published. Dinesh had Denise and Isabel had their original age difference, 10 years.
Oh, how? Yeah, because you talk about that. I forgot in the book. She was very young, though. Still in the book.
They were engaged when she was 10.
He was 20.
Yeah. So they had that was normal for the time.
No,
part of the book was also criticizing.
It still happens nowadays and more.
Yep.
I mean, that's true, but wow. Okay.
Part of that version criticized that a lot, in that you marry girls at 10 and then treat them like children, even though you give them the responsibilities of an adult.
Yeah.
Because medieval teens were not teens. They were fully grown
I mean,
adults.
My mom started working with 10 years old. I mean, she finished 4th class grade.
All are not my dad, but my aunt, my dad's sister, only has the 6th grade. in
Well,
education.
my entire mom's family, I think my mom has like 8 brothers. I think in total they are 8 brothers and sisters, and every single one, none of them has studied longer than like 4th class, and 4th class in Portugal is basically from 6 to like 10.
It's 4th
So
grade,
it's 4 years, it's 4th grade, and then they started working with 10 years old, and they had to walk to the city, so like 7 kilometers or whatever walk.
Yep. Good
And
old
then
times.
they would
Wasn't
go to
it
factories.
wonderful?
Well, amazing.
When life was like that.
Under like later on under Salazar's dictatorship and everything, was wonderful. I mean, who wouldn't want that?
I mean, sure, we all starved, like, because my family was from Alentejo. That's where a lot of it came from, and they starved.
Oh yeah, my mom too. Like, my mom used to tell me so often that like they had 1 sardine for 4 kids.
Yeah.
And if they were lucky, sometimes for Christmas, they would have like 1 chestnut or something. But they were also very proud in the sense that there were people who were very rich. And I remember my mom telling me that someone wanted to give her apples. But my grandmother was very proud. So I was like, no, like we are poor, but we are not asking for things. So you are not going to accept it.
We get a lot of poor shaming kind of in Portugal. In that you have that mentality that you don't have a lot and so you cannot accept help either.
Yep.
Meanwhile, rich people have no problem taking stuff, but it's just that's the poor people's mentality. And I found that poor people do not like accepting charity, even though they're the ones who need it the most.
Yes, it's true. And but I thought it was so ridiculous at the time also because it's like they didn't ask for anything. Like the lady literally wanted to give it to my mom, but it's like, no, we don't need it. Thank you so much. We'll
sometimes you have a lot of apples.
Yeah, like we'll make do with what we have. It's like, what the heck are you talking about? So
so a lot of the stuff that happened back then was just. What were we talking about? What was the question?
About the publishing process.
Oh yeah, the publishing process. So then my agent, she said she couldn't rep it, and she was like, well, but I can like send you some other people because I think this is adult. And I was like, I can see why, because I write in that man's land.
Were you aiming for young adult?
I was.
Oh, okay.
I was always aiming for young adult, but my writing is in that no man's land between young adult and adult, which should have been new adult.
Yeah, I think they would call it the new adult.
It never took off because new adult just became like a college romance subgenre because no one would do new adult fantasy or new adult sci-fi or whatever. But I do think there was space in the market for it.
Because sometimes, like you do find, for example, I always thought, and I think sometimes...
6 of Crows is a good example. 6 of Crows is not a YA book. Those characters do not act like 17-year-olds. I'm sorry. I love the book.
Read it, but
it
you
is a
you got like one last stop, for example.
Oh yeah, that's also I think crossover. Because crossover is when it's like YA, but it could also read as adult.
Yeah, because
it by Courtney Summers is another one.
Because One Last Stop, I thought it was young adult, and I think it was due to the cover. It's not.
It's not published by Young Adult Imprint?
I don't know, but like the author has already said that it is not young adult. And I remember I was listening to the book on my way to work. And
I'm sorry. I'm confusing it with Last Night at the Telegraph Club.
Oh, that I don't know that one.
No, Last Night at the Telegraph Club is by Melinda Lowe and it is young adult. Mm-hmm. One Last Stop is Casey McQuiston and yes, it is adult. Both her books, Red, White, and Royal Blue is also adult.
But that's the thing.
The covers and because it's written by a woman.
Yeah, but like you read the story and you think, okay, this is obviously adult because there are really explicit scenes here. But on the other hand, everyone in the book is in their 20s.
It's what would have been new adult if publishing had known what to do with it.
Like I wouldn't give my mom, even if it wasn't sapphic and all the thing, like that book, because I think my mom would like more mature stories, like with people who already have like things figured out, in a sense, people finding themselves out, which I really like. So I do think there's like a genre there missing, because you either fall
publishing to the screwed it. Like they did not know what to do with it, and a lot of authors kept saying just do this, do that, but they were just look, what's selling is college romances like 50 Shades of Grey, so we'll just keep throwing money and hope it sticks. And then it didn't stick, and they were like, oops.
Okay.
If you've been like noticing like publishing trends for as long as I have, you know that like this happens like every 5 years or so, or every 10 years. There's like, it happens. It's
But did
the
you
circle
then
of life.
but did you then decide to, okay, then this is, I'm gonna market it as
Yeah.
adult? Because
No,
that's what it
I
is.
was just like, I'm just gonna query it as adult to the agents that's rap adult, and I'm gonna do upper YA to agents who rap YA. It was all over the place. And I did Pit Mad on Twitter, got a ton of requests. No one wanted to rep the book.
Oh, wow.
Apparently no one knew what to do with it, and someone said my writing was overly descriptive.
No,
which was a fun thing to call my writing, because in the Publishers Marketplace review they complain about not having enough description. So I'm like, which is it?
I don't think it was over descriptive. I don't usually like books that are over descriptive. I think I'm still
because we've all been traumatized by Essa.
Yeah,
we've all been traumatized by Essa.
Traumatized by the man who describes everything. But it's a Portuguese thing. But I
think that's part of why we don't overly describe. We've been traumatized by Essa Quiroz taking 6 pages in a living room.
Just shut up, man.
We all hate it so much. But yeah, I was just like, I'm just gonna do the way the character would see it. And the things the character would notice, which is not a lot.
No,
when I walk into a room, I don't notice a lot of things.
No, but like I didn't think it was too over descriptive. But did you?
So I was querying, and then it was just not happening. And then one of my editors at Entangled reached out and said, just sub. At worst, you're getting a critique. Best, you'll get an offer of publication. And then I submitted, like, you know what?
Let's try it.
Let's try it anyway, because I'm not self-publishing, because I don't have enough confidence or work ethic to self-publish. And so I submitted to them, and then I had the offer of publication. But I got the contract, and it was like, what legally as hell is this?
Oh yeah, because of course it's not a contract that says you're going to publish the book and you get this. It's a lot of work and words.
A friend gave me a referral to their agent, who then took me on and negotiated the contract for me. And then that was it. I was going to get published, and they were going to do it in print. Yay! But yeah,
and the hardcover.
But that's not my publisher who decides, it's the distributor. So guy got lucky. Macmillan wanted it as hardback. Otherwise, you would get just a softback.
Yeah, okay, because it's very pretty as well. Like the dust jacket is very beautiful, but also the inside it's blue with the silver.
I call it my blue girl.
It is really pretty. And this is a question that I know you get a lot. And is it if you have any plans to publish it in Portuguese? And here,
I mean, what can I do? No one wants to buy the rights. So
have you submitted it to publishers in Portugal?
I haven't submitted it because I don't own the
rights.
I mean, I don't own them. I mean, they should be returning to me soon. But at the time, I have a sub-agent for that. So she's the one who submits to publishers. And I know she did.
Oh, she submitted to publishers in Portugal for a translation. Yeah.
Yes. And in Germany and etc. But the book did not do all that well to be picked up in Germany. It still sold way more than I thought it would. I thought it would sell like 500 copies, but it did much better than that. Enough for Entangled to make Mang, but not me. Anyway, I went around the book fair with my book in hand, and people in the publishing houses were just not. The only one who would talk to me said, "Oh, yeah, you wrote this one because that's the fashion now." A mother.
The fashion? What's that? Why
would you? The fad. It's the fad now to write about lesbians, and I'm just like,
maybe it's not a fad.
If it's the fad, then why don't you buy it and publish it? Then?
Exactly. Because that's the thing. If it was a fad, it would sell, right?
And they were doing that as they were like selling out Heartstopper. But we all know MM sells much better than FF because people hate lesbians in general.
Just so terrible.
But also, plans about Portuguese are just the Portuguese world doesn't want me. So bother
Because
them.
there is also a
Ask
problem
them.
with fantasy in Portugal, in the sense that publishers just think, oh, there isn't well written fantasy and therefore it doesn't sell.
The fact that the guy who said that used his own traditional publisher to publish his own book.
But he also said there were only men, right? There
There are only
written by
3
men.
Portuguese science fiction and fantasy authors who are not Tolkien ripoffs, and they're all these 3 old men.
And he includes himself in that, which is the greatest thing. He actually includes himself in one of the people
I just
writing good fantasy.
because all the books we have are Tolkien ripoffs, and so we don't publish them. But look, I wrote this Sherlock Holmes meets Lovecraft book that we're publishing, and I was just like, that's easy then. I just found my own publishing company and use it to publish my own books. It's like Vanity, but a step up.
Yeah. But also to have the conditions to do that. I mean, there are a lot of people who are basically self-publishers, because I remember at the time I had like a blog in Portuguese where I used to write.
I mean, you talk about Chiado. Chiado is a scam.
Because
Chiado is a scam,
it's not just Chiado. I remember there was like another.
No, there are many.
Publisher,
I have a list.
But especially Chiado. Like I was specifically talking about that publisher, and I've told this to people like American, and they're like, that doesn't make any sense. You're gonna publish, like you're gonna pay to deliver your book to someone so they can publish your book, but it's not self-published.
You should see the amount of Chiado authors who take a lot of offense when we say they're being exploited.
But they are. How can you write a story and have to pay 2,000 euros to publish a book? And then
2,000, that's being generous. That's usually 3,000.
Okay, that's what I heard.
It depends on the size of the book, literally.
Okay. And they do not do the edition. There's no edition.
They do if you pay extra.
Like how and then honestly, like at some point I used to work for this magazine. No work, it was volunteer. I used to write for this magazine called Blogazine. It was an online digital magazine, and we got this because I got an email from Chiado asking me if I wanted to review books, because there was something I did on my blog. And I said, yeah, sure. And it got to a point in which I honestly told the person that was like editing the magazine, like, I don't want to do this anymore, because they are sending me books and they're books with so many mistakes, and some of them are so badly written that I cannot go through the book and write a review. Like I have to make shit up. Because
we could do a whole episode on Chiado authors who are institutionalized and in flat out denial, and like I don't blame them. Like, boo, you were conned. It happens. I don't blame you. I blame Chiado for taking advantage of people.
No, of course, definitely, obviously, because people think, okay, I'm gonna pay this. They're gonna give me some books so I can sell to my friends.
The one I talked to was like, she was 16 at the time.
Oh no, unless she has her parents. It was
like the parents gave it as like a birthday gift or something.
That's a lot of money. No,
it also depends on the size. If it's a smaller book, you can pay just 1,000.
Oh, okay. Still,
they change it.
It's a long time.
It's just, like, I'm sorry, but writing is work. I'm not gonna pay to work. That's just counterintuitive.
And not just that.
Love yourselves. Believe in your work. And also, people here, they think you write your first book and it's a masterpiece and it's published. No, sometimes you need to write another book and another book and another book and keep working on your craft.
And not just that, you need to have an editor, because I used to think like that as well. I used to think, okay, but if you have your book edited by someone, then you're not the one writing the book. Like you either are able to publish the book as is, or you're not a writer. Like, excuse me. And then we
got into a fight with a Chiado author about that, in that she believed that people who used editors were just lazy.
Like, hello.
And didn't want to do the work themselves.
You cannot look at your own book at a distance. Like it's
about like improving. The editor points out stuff, but you're still the one writing that stuff into it. And surprise, you can say no to an editor's notes if you really don't agree with it.
Yeah, obviously. But
it happened with me. Like there was stuff I pushed back against, and we talked about it, and it
I want to
was
keep
fine.
it. Yeah. No, but that's the curious thing. I do think like in general in Portugal we have that idea, but it's also I've heard of a lot of people who actually paid and they were promised a lot of marketing stuff that then didn't happen, including having their books on known, like Fnac is maybe one of the, it's like our Amazon basically in Portugal. And they were supposed to have their books there for a long time, and they were not available for
Like,
sale
welcome
there.
to my world. Fnac says my
oh,
book does not exist in physical format.
well, I got the first time I ordered your book through my indie bookstore here in the Netherlands, it got cancelled. But then I ordered it again, and like 3 months later, the book came in.
It was just, I mean, we did have, publishing in general was having a hard time with shipping.
Yeah.
And
but
printing.
Also the
it's still happening.
Yeah.
Like a friend of mine had her book release pushed a whole week because they could not print it in time because everything's so backed up.
But that's because of the chain issue, like the supply
it's the chain issues.
issue.
It's
like
beyond.
There is no supply. We can't print if we don't have paper, or we're gonna.
But no, you can't get my book in Portuguese bookstores, and that just sends me to a whole another level of just being there.
That's not true.
Phobia.
Yeah, because especially because like they have deliverers from of English books. So if
I found the book at Fnac with the same distributor.
There you go.
In hardback,
yeah.
The American edition. And I was just like, so you can get this one, but you can't get mine.
It's
sabotage.
I just find it's such a shame, honestly. Such a pity that like we have this legend. Like I told you, I told you this and I mean it. I really enjoy the book. I like the writing, but also like the story. You have this legend that it's ours. Like it's not just ours apparently, but that we know as ours because this is our queen and king.
I should get together with a bunch of other authors who are from countries where they do have a legend like that. Yeah. And we all just do like our own short story on it.
Like an anthology. No, but it just really baffles me that nobody picks it up, and it really saddens me that the society in general in Portugal is still so close-minded that these things don't really.
Like, don't you have $500 for the rights? Like, but apparently not for me. They don't.
But well, in one side, I guess they do have a point in which this will not sell, and
how do they know
it would sell? But the problem
everything. So I don't believe in books that. I don't believe in this will not sell. I believe that it's more of like, we don't know how to sell this.
No, of course. But because there are people who want to read this, obviously.
There's like a niche for everyone, and niche markets are quite profitable.
Yeah.
Even if it's not niche, I don't think it's necessarily niche to just have a sapphic story. I mean, straight stories are not niche. Why are sapphics or...
Why would you waste like a retelling of a Portuguese legend? But like I said, I do think it is because a lot of the people working in publishing.
No, in Portugal in general, publishing does not know how to market books. Period.
But also a lot of the people working there, they're just white, old, straight people. So they look at society. The idea that they have of our society is like, no, this is too forward, and this like new ideas. Like you say, it's fashion. It's a fad.
Also, I'm pretty sure if I'd written it under like Diana Smith, people would be like, oh yeah, this person is totally a native speaker, instead of, nitpicking me for stuff that is in native English speakers' books.
Yeah.
And then it's poetic for them. But for me, it's just, this person is using the dictionary to write because she uses the word susurrus.
It's like, but you're also
which if you're Portuguese, it's sussurro.
Like, but you're also...
It comes naturally to me.
Yeah, but you're also like, you're writing about a legend that is native to your country. You are obviously going to have... There are certain words that you probably are going to have to look for if you don't know them beforehand.
Also, there are a lot of words I could not use because I didn't want it to read modern. That's another thing people read me for, like, oh my God, this is like the writing is, this way they speak is so weird and etc. Because it's medieval. Yeah. I know how to write regular contemporary speech. I just didn't want to because it was the 13th century and people did speak slightly different.
But yeah, like you said, if a lot of people got the book and didn't know that the author was Portuguese, wouldn't notice those things. And because they know the author is Portuguese, they kind of like go
But
in
I
the
think a lot of
direction.
the critiques that I've gotten was just people not understanding either the context, the historical context, even though it says 1288.
Yeah.
And why is it so based on religion? And I was just like, have you looked at society, at medieval European society back then? They lived for that shit.
But even nowadays, Portugal is quite religious. Come on, like even nowadays, Portugal is quite religious. But back then,
you lived for it.
Yeah, no, obviously.
Everyone went to church, like if not every weekend, every day.
My grandmother went every day to church with my mom. Now my mom goes every weekend, but like also my mom still has that thing that if there's Christmas or Easter, you have to go on the day of Easter or Christmas, but also another day. So one it's for Christmas and the other counts for you. You know what I mean? So she used to
do like that. A lot of the critiques was just historical context. Like, what do you want me to do? And Isabel herself, she was like the nicest, saintliest person. And she was also ultra religious, believe me or not. I was just like, oh my God, nut job.
No, but
how do I write around her nut jobbiness when it comes to Christianity?
Yeah.
No, and how do I make her understand?
Well, so and still is so important, I think, to so many people in Portugal. Like I said, my mom is in her 60s, but there are a lot of younger people who still, like people. I think most people in Portugal,
had a lot of younger Catholic people who said it helped them a lot.
No, because like you still have people who baptize their kids even when they don't usually go to church. It's like a thing that it's so ingrained in society that it's almost like a ritual, even though it's attached to church. But people don't really think...
baptized, which I would not have been if I had had a choice.
But I think
I was 1 year old, so exactly zero choice in that.
Listen, I even went to, I don't know how to say this in English, but it's
God, the first communion, the solemn communion.
Yeah, I did the first communion, second communion, and then like when I was 18, I did the other thing.
You did the other one. I did not get that far.
That we get that when we want to become godmothers or godparent, like godparents.
Yeah, I became an atheist earlier.
And no, so I didn't know. I had to go to church every weekend until I was 21. My mom made me go to church, and then I actually met a boyfriend who was from another town, so I would either go to church or meet him. And then my mom was more lenient about it, so she started to allow me not to go to church. And as soon as I kind of found myself free, then I started thinking, but I was still religion until I was like 26. I still had some belief, and then I started saying, oh, I'm agnostic but like theist because I still believe in God.
I'm fine with people believing in it. It's just don't impose your beliefs on other people. It's just
of course.
I believe like some people take comfort in the spiritualism.
But like I don't think I'm gonna have kids nowadays, but if I had kids, I would not baptize them. But back in the day, like I said, when I was 26, it wouldn't even cross my mind to not baptize my kids.
But they also got a lot more controlling with it. When I was baptized, my godmother was Muslim and they were fine with it.
Really?
She was a family member. Yeah.
There you go.
And they didn't require like the charisma and all of that.
Yeah.
It's just a family member or a close friend, and they were fine with it.
Yeah, it's just like, but no, I don't know. Like I said, in my family, at least, I'm from a very small village, even, and
I mean, most of my parents are from like teeny tiny towns.
Yeah, so
and I was raised in Estremoz, which is not a huge city; it's a small city.
Yeah, so it's
everyone
basically
knows everyone.
You just go, and then you go to church, and you're just religious. That's how, like when I
your grandfathered in. It's like instead of a Netflix plan, you're grandfathered into Catholicism and all that guilt it entails.
Oh yeah, and everything.
That's
I have
Portugal for you.
That everything is also very much around sex, and that's why people are so naughty in the sense that every single joke that you make or every single thing that you say can be turned into a sexual joke. And I think
that's what she said.
Exactly. See, and I think it is because of the whole repression and everything, like virginity and everything is so very religious and everything is a sin. It's like the Simpsons. You go to the toilet and you're already committing a sin.
Yep. Although my parents were surprisingly liberal, I was born out of wedlock. I went to their wedding.
Oh, wow.
And I remember being 15 and then just being like, I don't remember what the context was, but some celebrity was like doing a virginity pledge. And my dad was just like,
Probably
dumbass,
Britney.
no one marries without test driving it.
Well,
I was like, well, you are proof of it.
yeah, there you go.
I was 1 year old at their wedding.
There you go. But a lot of people rushed to marry because they got pregnant. I mean, but it's curious because my mom told me there's a lot of stories that my mom told me when I was already like just a couple of years ago that I was like, damn, I thought you were a saint. That you were like this very, very.
It's always the quiet ones.
And my mom wasn't, of course, like some of my aunts that I heard about, but they all have this. They impose these ideas on you that you're supposed to do a certain kind of thing.
And then
but then you find out the stories and you're like, damn, I should have dated more.
As my dad says, do what I say, not what I do.
What I do, exactly.
Faz aquilo que digo, não faças aquilo que eu faço.
Yeah.
They love that.
Yep. Especially when you say, oh, I can't do that, but you did it. Yeah, well.
Yep.
So, well, still in the same line, what are your goals with writing A Curse of Roses? What would you ideally like to achieve with it?
I mean, it's pretty much just done now. I mean, I got it out. People have read it. That's good enough for me. Peak moment was me at the Lisbon Book Fair and being recognized by random people, not once, but twice. I threw a party like, oh my God, do you want stickers? It was like, see, publishing, I found my readers.
There you go.
But yeah, it's a bit hard that like your book releases and then people forget about it. Just me being like, that's why I'm not online much nowadays. It just gets me depressed about it.
I don't know. I just kind of have a feeling that there could be at the right time that there could be kind of like a awakening for that book. I don't know, but that's maybe
a lot of books like find more people like years later, which is fine. I just need to keep on writing until eventually another book gets bigger. People find The Curse of Roses again.
I don't know. Like I said, I really liked it. So I just find it very strange.
It's a very quiet book too. I mean, it's not like a big epic journey.
But it's so interesting though.
Fighting evil. It's a quiet book.
But I don't know.
About people finding happiness in their own terms.
But it's very specific. So yeah, I still have that. Well, okay. So that's I think what I think the book should achieve. I think it should find a lot more readers, especially like of course fantasy readers and stuff. Because yeah, I don't hear it much on the.
I mean, all I ever want is for people to go to my hometown specifically because of my book, and then ask about it, and then everyone just goes like, "No, we don't talk about the lesbians."
It's like, sorry, you're talking about? Why are they all
like? Sorry, what book? What book? No, like because I've had a friend do that. He found my book. He's American. He found my book, and then we were in my hometown, and he just asked people about it randomly. Do you know about this book? And they were like, no.
Well, it's the author's from this hometown.
Wait, Pinguicha? I know her dad. Do they know about the book? Because it's a very uncommon name. It's my family.
Yeah, I actually didn't know it was your actual name. I must admit, until Sophia, which is someone we both know, told me that's actually, you can say the name because it's her last name, her actual last name. Because I was like, oh, we still have to wait for Diana. But I think, I don't know if there were more Dianas in the room.
A lot of people think it's my just nickname, online
nickname. It was a nickname.
And it is because I got it before everyone else did in my family.
What do you mean?
Because there are the Pinguichas online, but I'm the one who just took the @Pinguicha. And now they all need to be initial Pinguicha.
Yeah. So you got
like, I got here first. I'm a child of the internet. But no, there's like 90 people with my name and they're all family.
Oh,
I was bullied for it, but then eventually I decided to reclaim it.
Yeah.
Because it's just so unique.
It's like Benedict Cumberbatch. He wasn't going to use his name. And then
He
someone said,
wasn't?
no, he was using his the same family name that his father uses. I don't remember now anymore which one it was. But then someone actually found out, wait a minute, you're an agent. Your name is Cumberbatch. You have to use that, man. Like you have to. It's so uncommon. You have to. And
Yeah,
then
for my books on Portuguese legends and that, I will keep Pinguicha.
there you go.
Unless publishing makes me change it, because sometimes if your book doesn't do well enough, you need to debut again under a different name.
No.
Yes, that happens. That happens, yeah. Then I'll be, I don't know, Diana Duarte, my other last name.
It could be, but I don't know. Like I said, it's such an uncommon name. I think it could work in your favor.
Or I just go David Penguin.
David Penguin.
David Penguin.
How do you mean, David Penguin?
Because then I'm a man.
Oh.
A white man with an anglicized last name.
I see.
Or just a Pinguinha. No, Pinga. Diana Pinga.
Yeah, that's liquor for us.
Yep.
Are there any other Portuguese legends or mythology, history that you would like to approach in a similar manner in other novels in the future, or that you are already approaching?
Yeah, I've been reading biographies on Leonor Teles for a while now, because I love her. Like, she was done so dirty by history, like completely. She was a very competent ruler, and just because she didn't want to marry a man and have to deal with another king, like Don Juan I wanted to marry her during the dynastic crisis, but she said, I'm already queen. I shouldn't need to marry a man. I'm queen regent. Shouldn't need to marry a man to keep my power. And that backfired on her.
Oh.
Because that's when she had to flee to Castella.
Okay.
They killed her lover.
History. I'm really bad in history.
It's the Batalha de Aljubarrota. It's during that. So I would like to do Leonor Teles mixed with the Aljubarrota battle.
Okay. And
so I like the Padeira de Aljubarrota legend as well.
Oh, she is like, yeah. She's character
massive
that really
massive gay energy.
She does though.
Like we all assume like she just has like killing Castilians with a paddle, like a baker's paddle.
The baker's like the bread paddle. What the heck? It's like the dream.
Yep. That is the dream. Or I just like get them toasty in the oven.
Get the bread and then.
For those who don't know, it was during a battle between Portugal and Castella, where Castella was trying to take our kingdom seat because the king was married to the late Portuguese king's daughter, and their son, aka King Fernando's grandson, was supposed to inherit the Portuguese throne. But Portuguese people were afraid that Leonor Teles, who was queen regent at the time, would just give them to Castella, which she would not. She was definitely not doing that, but she was a woman and she was beautiful and ambitious and also accused of killing Fernando, even though he died of pneumonia.
Oh boy.
So she was vilified. And then at the time, there was this decisive battle in Aljubarrota where the Castilians had 10 times the size of our army.
I don't know exactly, but yeah, we
knew the terrain really well.
Yeah.
And so we managed to drive them back with basically no casualties. And at the end, some Castilian soldiers were retreating and they decided to hide in this baker's house in the oven. And British, her name was British, supposedly. I'm going to call her Violante. But the baker of Aljubarrota, after she was outside, doing her guerrilla tactics, because she did organize a woman's only guerrilla to defend their houses from the Castilians, she came home and she found like this half a dozen Spaniards in the oven, and so she just went smack.
Yeah, as she should.
Smack. That's what happened. That is one of our legends. That
would be so cool. I mean, it would be super cool.
In my version, I was trying to make her and Leonor meet as teenagers.
Oh, okay. So they would be friends already.
They would be friends / lesbians. But then they would have a falling out because Leonor was so ambitious. Yeah. And British.
I just want to make my bread, man. Listen, like bread is so nice. I just want to.
Actually, she wanted to go become a soldier, but women couldn't. Except you find some legends where there were women warriors and they were revered. So I'm gonna find a way to do both, like incorporate them.
And are you working on that? Because I have like,
I'm doing
what
both.
are you working on?
I'm so many. I'm now working on the short story for that anthology that I'm trying to put together. Because I need one short story for the sample, and I'm not gonna ask anyone else to write for free. But again, since publishing is kind of grounded to a halt right now and no one's really reading, we're going to have to wait until January 1st to go on submission anyway. But I'm like, I've accidentally written a novella while doing the short story. Wow. So it was like, it had Tágidas and Dia Damastor. And now I'm just like, well, the part of Dia Damastor, it's going to be a novella, basically. So now I'm just going to write a short story about Saudade, and it was going well, almost done, except now I want to do it from another point of view. Like, fuck, like screw you, Diana.
Do you have a deadline?
I mean, I'm trying to be good and have it ready so we can submit by in the new year when it starts.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, nothing's happening in publishing right now. No one's reading. It's amazing, like how it just stops.
At the end of the year.
End of the year and Thanksgiving in the US.
Yeah, people are just making lists now for next year.
But yeah, so I want to do the Leonor Teller's retelling, and I also want to do YA fantasy, but with some mental illness representation. About music too, because I studied music for some years. So I want to do that, like music-powered magic.
Very well.
Maybe. And then, I don't know, I want to do a lot. I want to do cosmic horror based on the bone chapels that we have.
Oh,
the bone chapel in Evora, which is terrifying.
I've been there, yes.
I want to do a whole city that's based on that. And they used like the ancient bones to make magic. Like
that would be super cool, because that chapel is amazing. I mean, terrifying, of course.
It is a doozy. I love it.
It's, I mean, it's amazing.
I've been fascinated by it since I was 6 years old.
Wow, you just walk in and the whole thing made of bones is amazing.
I'm surprised it's still standing.
Why?
To be honest. Because bones are not very hardy, but they're all very well kept.
Yeah, I think it's well taken care of. But yeah, but it's just super cool.
Yeah, so we'll see. My problem is not lack of ideas. It's just productivity, especially with, isolation and quarantine. It's like, and I talked to this with other friends who are authors, our brains have lost half their brain power.
It's very complicated to work from home. Yeah,
because we used to be like, before this all started, we'll just do 3K on a regular day, and now it's like pulling teeth for some reason. Like the very same thing I did before is just that much harder in stupid quarantine. So any author who had to write a book during quarantine, because contracts and all, I'm just like, you have a pass if it sucks, because I don't know how anyone could keep their brain alive.
There's no break. Like,
there's
everything. The news, the fact that you can't go anywhere to focus, the fact that, your workplace is your home where you relax. I think the brain is just like, working? No, let's relax. You're home.
I've, not during the quarantine part, but I've been just going to the garden to sit on a bench so I can just write on my notebook or cell phone there.
Yeah.
Because then I'm not home.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And it's like really productive days when I do that. Except now it's getting cold, so now I can't.
It's less. Yeah, no, it's less nice to be out. Where can people find you online?
You can find me online. I mean, I'm mostly on Twitter because I can just do my verbal diarrhea and close the tab, which is how I do Twitter mostly. I rarely just sit there and scroll. I just open the tab, see what's up, say something, and then just close tab. If someone interacts, I interact back. But so I'm at Pinguicha, Pingycha on Twitter and Instagram, Tumblr, if you still use that. Though my Tumblr is, it's mostly just reposts from cat photos on Instagram.
That's a great content, actually.
Yeah, actually, my Instagram, it's mostly just cat pictures and lizard
Yeah,
pictures. So not so
great
much as
content.
writing. I'm just like, look, I need to put the picture. I'm not going to put my face because I'm always having bad eyebrow days on account of the picking thing. So I'm just like, I'm going to put another photo of my cats, one of whom is just like looking at me
Oh,
right now.
it's like, what are you doing? Oh, super cute.
My little spoon. When you texted me, he was spooning me in bed.
Oh, that is super sweet. They're the best.
Tabby cats are the sweetest.
It's like mine.
And
Mine is also.
if you have a tabby ginger, you've hit the jackpot in terms of the sweetest dummies ever.
Wow, because
Tabby
mine
ginger.
is like turquoise shell color, like brown and with the spots of black and stuff. But
Yeah, I have a tortie.
Yeah, she is very independent, but when she cuddles, she really cuddles to you, and you know she
That's
wants.
my other cat, the Persian Sushi. She's a tortie, a smoky tortie, because she also has the brown and the white and the gray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But she's a very independent diva. But when she wants to cuddle, she's the best cuddler.
And then you know that oh, she really wants it because she doesn't.
She really wants it. She just comes to me, stretches her little paw, looks at me with those big, slightly crossed eyes, and then I know. And you pick her up and she purrs.
Oh,
and it's the best.
Cats are
that one. That Jubas you can't pick up. He's way too heavy. Also, he panics.
So now, this is the last question of the podcast. The most difficult question: an all-time favorite book and a book you would recommend right now.
I mean, I always say anything by Judith Marillier. My favorite book refers to Son of Shadows, the second one in the Seven Waters trilogy. So read Daughter of the Forest, but then read the much superior. Daughter of the Forest is still amazing, but Son of the Shadows is what I think the perfect book. And a book I would recommend right now, oh my God, The Reckless Kind by Carly Heath. It just came out.
I actually interviewed her.
Carly. Oh my God.
She was the person I interviewed before you.
Oh my God, that is so funny. We were each other's critique partners. So she read The Curse of Roses and had really good notes for it. Mm-hmm. So she helped me with the middle of the book a lot.
Yeah.
And I read The Reckless Kind, which at the time, The Reckless Kind, which at the time was The Heathens of Muskox Hollow.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, we needed to find new agents at the same time because her agent left the business. And my agent just like, I can't prep this. And we were like, so yeah, I love her book so much.
That's so curious. Yeah,
everyone should read it. Yeah, oh my God, that is so funny.
Yeah, she's gonna be in the same season, and I don't know if she kind of found me because she contacted me, and I don't know if she kind of found me through you or not. But like, I saw you talking about The Reckless Kind, I think when it came out, and I was like, wow, like, okay, Diana knows this person, like they follow each other. It's so funny, and now I'm just interviewing both of them.
Small world. But yeah, anything by Carly. I have her latest draft in my Kindle, and her writing is just phenomenal. She has a very
I told her that The Reckless Kind gave me a lot of the feelings of A Knight's Tale. You know, friends, horse, like this race, trying to get something, and yeah.
I mean, her writing just has this otherworldly quality to it, and it's very clean. Like, she does not waste words. It's amazing, but also queer platonic triad.
Yeah. And disability representation, which you don't find very often.
Asexual representation, which you also do not rarely find.
So it's really fun. Well, she's going to be very happy with this book you should read right now. Recommendation for sure.
Well, yeah, just because it just came out. And I was like, everyone read it. I demand this. A book that's come out the year prior. I also recommend The Last Confection of Autumn Casterly by Meredith Tate.
I did not know that one. No, but I will leave everything.
A thriller.
Okay. I love
A missing
thrillers,
girl
actually.
thriller.
Okay.
I love that too.
I'm going to leave the suggestions and actually the links to your social media and everything on the show's notes so people can find it more easily. I hope this also makes people get interested in Portuguese story and mythology because I think it's very fun.
A lot of it too. We have a lot of it because we're such an old country.
We believe so many things as well. We have so many superstitions and beliefs and like with magic and curses and spirits and
I got this picture book about Portuguese mythological creatures, and it had to be a picture book because I couldn't find anything else.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, wow. So like you can't even find like an actual.
You can find because that's another thing I want to do. I want to do an adult book with like smaller short stories based on Portuguese monsters.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Bestiário. Based on like different. Our werewolves are insane. I'm sorry.
Wow.
It's just the hands.
Yeah, because there was someone the other day on Twitter saying like the part of Europe that is vampires and part of Europe that is werewolves, and Portugal is definitely werewolves.
We're werewolves, yeah. But I want to do that. So it's like it has an overarching story, but in the middle, involved in the story, is like different Portuguese mythological creatures. So each one of them has their own short, kind of like what the Hazelwood did, but with Portuguese mythology.
So gotta wait for it.
Yeah, but I eventually stopped writing.
Diana, thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And for bringing your cat.
Yeah, Jubita is just like, meow.
Thank you for your small but very, very important participation. I'm in the cat. You can access today's show's notes via my pod page, which you can find along with all of my social media links at linktree/Carina Pereira. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting A Story of Sorts on Patreon. Patreon is a platform which allows you to contribute monthly to the podcast in exchange for extra content, such as early access to episodes, a shout out at the end of an episode and on Instagram, and choosing a theme for me to talk about on the podcast. You can become a patron at patreon.com/A Story of Sorts. Leaving a review would also be highly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to get a notification when the next episode hits. I'll talk to you then, and thank you for listening.